Well, we hope you're enjoying your Thanksgiving weekend, but we have politics to talk about. I'm sorry about that. I'm Charlie Sykes. Sunday Insight starts right now. Good morning and welcome to Sunday Insight. In the week that was, well, after a tumultuous and seemingly endless political campaign, Americans took a breath and 4 days off for a much-needed holiday weekend. President-elect Trump continues to put his administration together. Democrats try to figure out what went wrong. And the rest of us are trying to figure out how to work off that extra helping of turkey. But let's start by looking ahead a bit and asking a relatively basic question. Is America going to be more or less divided in the wake of this 2016 campaign? The rhetoric was harsh, the dividing lines stark. 8 years ago, we heard a lot of rhetoric about hope and change, but the mood this year was darker. There was talk about American greatness, but also a sense that we had lost our way and the country was on the wrong track on the economy, on terrorism, on police-community relations, and on immigration. Joining me on our panel this morning, the Milwaukee Community Journal's Michael Holt, former State Representative Michelle Lichens, political strategist Linda Bruin, and media tracker's Brian Sikma. So 2017, are we going to be a more or less divided country?
Well, Charlie, I'm an optimist, so I think that the answer is going to be we have the potential to be a less divided country because our national politics and this tone of the debate that we've seen is really some reflection of our individual actions. And if each American assumed responsibility for their own Facebook posts and their own social media comments, and if we all understood that just because someone disagrees with us doesn't mean we need to demonize them, then we would have a chance to move forward. I think if we assume that responsibility, it's a good thing, but unfortunately, I'm not sure if that's actually going to play out.
Okay, Linda Bruin.
Well, I agree with the self-responsibility, but on the other hand, the political districts across this country have become more and more segregated along liberal or conservative, but also the commander-in-chief. You know, leadership starts from the top, and we've just elected the most divisive president in history, at least in my opinion, and given his personality and how I think he will govern, I think that will increase the divisiveness rather than lessen it.
Okay, any chance of bipartisan coming together and, you know, kinder, gentler?
Right. At the moment, I don't think so. But if we look back, we have been self-segregating ourselves as a society for years, and this is across the country. Conservatives are moving out to more rural areas. Democrats are moving more, you know, into city, urban areas.
Maps, the blue and red
all
maps,
over the country, right? And we've gone through this before in Wisconsin with the recall election, where we were, you know, very segregated. Families didn't get together and they argued over Christmas for years. I don't see us coming together soon as a country, unfortunately, unless we have some sort of outside enemy that we all have to kind of come together.
Yeah, we better hope that the Russians attack tomorrow, or some Martians or something.
Or no.
Actually, we don't. Michael Holt, yeah.
No, but you know, we're going to need a lot more than Donald Trump staring into the camera and saying, stop that.
Yeah.
You know, this has been a very divisive race. America's more divided along race lines, political lines, than any time I can remember. You know, these are not good days ahead unless Donald Trump can mysteriously create a million new jobs overnight. Yeah. We're going to be at each other's throats for the next 4 years.
I don't want to let him off the hook, but Donald Trump cannot have all the blame for what's happening, you know, in our society. I actually think we are going to be more divided. I think things are going to get worse for reasons that have been discussed. Michelle mentioned this segregation by geography. We've also segregated ourselves into these alternative reality silos. You know, the left has one, the right has one. We increasingly do not talk to one another. We don't listen to one another. The tone of this campaign was definitely coarsened, I think, by Donald Trump. But this culture of demonization, of not listening to one another, I mean, it is certainly possible to live in a world where conservatives never engage with liberals, liberals never engage with
Think about
conservatives.
that. Our universities used to be a place where you would go and discuss ideas, philosophize together. And now today, if you're a conservative on a college campus, you're ostracized, and yet the professors are letting you go protest and, you know, skip classes because you're so hurt about Hillary Clinton not winning.
And
we need to change that.
It happens everywhere, even with this show. You've got liberals and conservatives on the show,
but we have
and
to talk to one another.
And I'll go somewhere and somebody will say, how can you possibly be friends with those people? And I say, no, they're actually very nice people.
and they're actually surprised to hear.
Like them.
Well, the other reason that this is not going to be these divisions, first of all, are real. Donald Trump is a very, very divisive figure, and you know whatever he might say. But the next year is also good. Things are going to move very, very fast. He's going to hit that ground running. There's going to be a lot of executive orders. There's going to be the push to repeal and replace Obamacare. In other words, the pace of change is going to pick up, and that's going to be incredibly controversial.
But we went through that in 2009.
Well, that's right, and I'm not sure that we actually recovered from that. You know,
that's a good point.
To a certain extent, that there are times where you have a sense that the body politic is broken. I just think that these universes that we have created, and watching the way that this is played out, somebody asked me, well, what is it going to take to, undo some of the damages? I really have no idea. I really don't know. We've talked about the rise of fake news. Well, that happened because we have these silos now of information. And then this is true on the left as right. I mean, if you live in the bubble where you get all of your news from Slate magazine or the Huffington Post and everything, you are living in believing that America is about to become a fascist dictatorship.
Right.
If you are living on the right, if you're living in Alex Jones world, if you're living in the
Breitbart
in the Breitbart world, you think that immigrant terrorists are about to destroy the country, and that is not conducive to coming together.
And I do think it's important to look at history because it's easy to get this martyr complex. 21st century, hard, big challenges. There's a lot of people whose feelings are now being hurt, especially in the younger generations. But we didn't fight a civil war this election. America is a lot better off than we were 200 years ago before our or over 200 years ago at our founding. We've made some significant progress. It doesn't mean the road's always smooth, but let's not get a martyr complex about it.
We may actually find a little bit of common ground when liberal Democrats suddenly discover why they don't necessarily trust government power. they will suddenly rediscover what a great thing
So welcome to that side of the ledger.
You realize, maybe this imperial presidency ruling by decree is not a good thing. Maybe you were right. What is your glass half full? What is your glass half empty? Let's go around the table. Michael Holt, you are first.
Well, my glass is half full because the world is shocked and angered over the murder of Chicago Congressman Danny Davis's grandson, killed over a pair of tennis shoes. Citizens everywhere are demanding action. My glass is half empty because I don't remember a similar uproar over the death of any of the other 673 people killed in Chicago this year. Maybe that explains why we're in this predicament.
Michelle Litchens.
My glass is half full because a court struck down Obama's restrictive overtime rules. It's half empty because hundreds of thousands of small business owners and employees have already made the necessary changes to comply with the rules, but thank goodness it was struck down.
Linda Bruin.
Well, my glass is half full that Planned Parenthood donations have skyrocketed since the election. But Mike Pence's glass is half empty because many donors are making their donations in his name, turning Pence into a major donor of Planned Parenthood, who sends him a thank you letter each time.
Brian Sickman.
Well, my glass is half full because so far, tens of thousands of hunters in Wisconsin are demonstrating during this deer season that guns aren't the cause of violence. My glass is half empty because there's no sign of anti-gun activists realizing this fact anytime soon.
Well, my glass is half full because the media is pushing back against the epidemic of fake news. It's half empty because we still get inundated with so much dumb news. And you know what I mean. Our Sunday Insight Countdown shows the Electoral College votes for president in 40 days. Donald Trump takes the oath of office in 54 days. And the midterm elections are, 709 days away. We'll be right back. Donald Trump gets set to become the nation's 45th president, and he's likely to get off to a fast and controversial start, issuing executive orders, undoing much of the Obama legacy, and pushing for the repeal of Obamacare. Now, he's already backed off on some of his campaign rhetoric. He won't prosecute Hillary Clinton. The wall may not be an actual wall, and Mexico's not going to pay for it. What a surprise. But he's expected to move quickly on some of his signature issues, including a crackdown on illegal immigrants. So let's look at the big picture here. So, Michelle Litchens, what does Donald Trump have to do to be a successful president, and how likely is that?
Likely that he's successful if I don't answer that question. But what does he have to do right away? He needs to start acting on what he campaigned on, and that is breaking up the status quo in Washington, D.C. And also, just to your point about the illegal immigrants, financially tell cities that you're not going to get any money unless you actually start, taking these illegal immigrants that commit crimes and sending them back,
That's going to be a divisive fight.
But he will be able to do it, and Americans support him on that. He needs to go to the EPA and say, you cannot enforce rules that were not passed legislatively. We need to get the Keystone Pipeline built and put people back to work in the energy industry. He has so many opportunities, and I think he can actually get those started right away.
Okay, what does he have to do to be a successful president, Michael Holt?
Well, some of those, but it depends on who you're asking that question to.
I'm asking you.
Well, I mean,
it's Michael Holt.
I'm talking about the citizens.
Okay.
if he creates some jobs, which he said he can do, but I don't think he's really going to be able to do initially. But I think if he starts deregulation, you know, uses pen, etc., he's starting to backtrack already, because I think he realizes that you really can't do a lot of what he promised to do. No politician ever really does what they promise to do. But he has to appease the far right, and that's going to be deregulation. It's going to be stopping illegal immigration. He's not going to throw out all the people. I don't even think he's going to really totally destroy Obamacare.
Okay.
Well, there's three things that Donald Trump has to do to be successful. First, surround himself with the right people. He started doing that. Reince Priebus as chief of staff was a good move. Mike Pence's VP pick was smart. Nikki Haley now UN ambassador, and there's some other names that are in the mix for secretary positions. Betsy DeVos for cabinet level slots. That's a good move. Second, he has to follow through on those campaign promises. Some of those controversial ones he's backing away from, but he does need to repeal and replace Obamacare. He does need to appoint a conservative, originalist justice to the Supreme Court. And the third thing he needs to do is listen to these conservatives in Congress. You've got Paul Ryan, you've got Senator Ron Johnson from here in Wisconsin, you've got Ben Sasse, Mike Lee, these great minds that have been working in the minority or have been working under a Democratic president for a long time. They've got good ideas. He needs to listen to them.
Boy, I think all of you are underestimating the anger that the people who put him in office will feel, as he's already backing off some of his biggest campaign issues that got them to vote for him, from the wall to, and to immigration, and if he has to back off on Obamacare. All these things are really going to infuriate his base. And so unless he comes up with something equally outrageous that they agree with or supplants it, he's going to be in trouble. The bottom line is he can't change his personality. He's a narcissist. He's unpredictable and volatile. Those things will undo his presidency a lot more than some of these other things will fix it.
I agree with most of what you said, but I think the big picture is he's got to get the economy right. He's got to, if in fact he moves ahead with tax reform and he fires up, the stock market has been rising in anticipation of this. If he can actually start growing this economy, get people back to work, if you get the economy right, then pretty much everything else is going to fall into place. If you don't get the economy right, everything's going to fall apart. Now, in order to keep up on that, he has to stay on track. He has to not step on himself. He's got to not get involved.
No more 3 a.m. tweets.
Well, this is part of the problem. Is that I think that he has the chance to do a lot of things substantively if he does not create the distractions for himself or creating the unnecessary problems. And I do think that this problem of the conflict of interest, his not having a blind trust for his businesses, is going to be a potential huge distraction. But for him, I think it's got to be Mr. Trump. The economy's stupid. You get that right, and people will forgive you.
How far would Paul Ryan let him go? How far would the Republicans allow him to carry out his agenda?
Okay, on the issue of jobs and the economy, I don't think there's going to be that much of a difference. I don't know how they're going to handle the whole infrastructure issue, but
trade.
But you don't get yourself into a trade war. Find a way to have comprehensive tax reform, growth-related tax reform, eliminate a lot of these regulations. And if you start seeing the stock market explode, people investing, doing all of those things, boy, his numbers will rise, and he's going to be able to accomplish a lot of other things. If he doesn't get that right, nothing else will go right. You may not want to hear it, but we'll tell you anyway. Let's hand out some unsolicited advice. Michael Holt.
Wherever I turn, people are singing songs of doom and gloom because Donald Trump was elected president. But for those of you who are not planning on leaving the country or commit political suicide, there are some important races coming up in just 5 months. Don't drop out of the process just yet.
Michelle Litchens.
Well, to liberals, before you throw out the word bigot, you should know what it really means. A bigot is a person who is intolerant towards those holding different opinions. So you might want to look in the mirror.
Linda Bruin.
Well, according to AAA, more than 90% of the people who travel for Thanksgiving get to their destinations by car. If you're driving home today, take it easy, keep your cool, and get home safe and sound.
Brian Sikma.
My unsolicited advice is for President-elect Trump. If you want to make the military strong again, appoint retired Marine General James Mattis Secretary of Defense. He's a deep thinker, tough fighter, an excellent manager, and he's a warrior's warrior.
Yeah, a guy named Mad Dog. What could go wrong? Well, my advice is also to President-elect Trump. Yes, even presidents can have conflicts of interest, and unless you separate yourself from your business, you're going to be embroiled in pay-for-play scandals, and that might trigger a constitutional crisis. It is just not worth it. Next on Sunday Insight, the biggest surprise in this campaign year. Okay, so you didn't see that coming, did you? A campaign likely nothing we've ever seen before. An election result that stunned the pundits and the pollsters. Republicans now control both houses of Congress. Here in Wisconsin, Senator Ron Johnson wins a second term in the United States Senate. The GOP expands its majorities in the state Senate and the state Assembly. So in the last year, what was the thing that surprised you the most, Linda Bruin?
Well, the obvious, that Donald Trump was elected president. But secondary to that, the fact that so many of the Rust Belt states helped put him in office, including Wisconsin. I really thought Wisconsin was going to go for Hillary Clinton. I really did. And the other big surprise to me is overseas. It's Great Britain voting to leave the European Union. So those are the biggies. Yeah,
so you were really, really shocked that blue-collar voters were more interested in jobs than in transgender bathroom rights.
Well,
it came as a shock to a lot of Democrats. Amazing.
Well, I'm going to have to hand it to Senator Ron Johnson's reelect campaign. I mean, looking back a year ago, it was an uphill fight. I was not optimistic. I mean, I think Senator Johnson's been a great senator, but just it's impossible. It's a rule of political gravity in Wisconsin. Republicans don't win Senate races in presidential election cycles. And he completely upended that. Russ Feingold took it for granted, kind of thought he could come back and be the darling and then violate his old pledge about campaign finance reform. And Johnson just never stopped working all the way up until the election night. I mean, he was out there meeting people, working hard, and that deficit of where people said, oh, he's been working too hard in Washington. Well, he came back and told people what he was up to.
I don't think it's possible to overstate how big a surprise that was, for the reasons that you mentioned. Biggest surprise
the Johnson, Feingold losing, etc. But I was really, really surprised that the Republicans maintained control of the Senate.
Oh, gosh.
I just knew that was going to switch over, and there would be some balance, which there is no longer, but...
Well, they still need 60 votes. So everything that you said obviously was a surprise to me. I'm very surprised that the Democrats didn't immediately start saying we need to bring some younger people in to be leaders in the Democratic Party right now, and they are just dredging out these old people who have been there for years.
Same old.
It is, and they don't seem to get it, that the reason that they lost is because they've been going down that extremely progressive track. They're doing the same thing in the state of Wisconsin, and so I'm kind of surprised they're the ones that are saying the Electoral College is wrong, that Hillary Clinton really won the election, and I'm just kind of shocked to see that all happen.
I agree with everything everybody said, but I also, one of the things that really surprised me was what happened to conservatives this year. I mean, their willingness to believe things that were not true, their willingness to surrender one principle after another, the way they fell into line for Donald Trump. Now, I know that they're feeling pretty good about the election results in the end, but it was remarkable. All year long, I was surprised every time, a principled conservative would say, well, yes, but this, but that. The rise of fake news, I'm sorry, is like a symptom of, I think, what's happened, that at one time I thought of conservatives as being very, very principled, well-informed, and kind of took a battering this year. So what is it you don't get? Let's go around the table. Michael Holt, you are first.
What I don't get is how state Republicans seem to be surprised that a court rules they gerrymandered Assembly and Senate districts. Even Stevie Wonder could see through that redistricting scam.
Michelle Litchens.
Well, I don't get how 70% of the protesters in Portland, Oregon, who were mailed a ballot, didn't care enough about the election before the election to vote, but they cared enough now to protest and break things.
Yes, ironic. Linda Bruin.
Donald Trump was a Republican from 1987 to 1999. From 1999 to 2001, he was in the Reform Party. From 2001 to 2008, he was a Democrat. Then he became a Republican again. So what I don't get is anyone who thinks they know what Donald Trump believes in or what he'll do as president.
Brian.
Well, he believes in Trump steaks, but what I don't get is why the same media that never really wanted to pay much attention to Hillary Clinton's numerous ethics lapses at the Clinton Foundation is suddenly outraged that Donald Trump isn't talking to them as much as they would like. Didn't they lose their credibility during this election cycle?
Well, what I don't get is why they haven't taken Donald Trump's Twitter account away from him yet, really. Next on Sunday Insight, what we're most thankful for. First, here's your morning news update. So, this Thanksgiving, what are you most thankful for? Let's go around the Thanksgiving table. Michael Holt, you're first.
Well, this has been a very emotional Thanksgiving in my mother's illness, but it reinforced why family is the foundation for everything, and how I've been privileged to have great parents, and a cohesive and supportive family to lean on.
Michelle Litchens.
So, well, I'm always thankful for family, just like Michael and I bet everyone here. But this year, I almost lost my mom to a brain aneurysm in September. I am so thankful for modern science and the doctors at St. Luke's everyone's prayers, and I'm especially thankful for God's miracle because my mom is going to make a full recovery. Wow. It's a good reminder that we should never be too busy for family.
Linda Bruin.
I'm thankful for life, the birth of my first grandchild, Henry, last spring, and my life, which I almost lost a few months ago. Henry and I are doing great, and every day I get to be on this earth, I thank God for his gifts of life, friends, and family.
Brian Sickman.
Well, just over a week ago, dozens of Wisconsin Army National Guard soldiers returned to Wisconsin after a 9-month deployment to Iraq, assisting the 101st Airborne Division as it oversaw the U.S. fight against ISIS and helped train the Iraqi military. Welcome home, soldiers, and thank you and your families for serving and sacrificing.
This is a hard act to follow this week. I'm thankful for the many years that I've had here and the chance that I've been given to be part of the conversation in this great state. I'm grateful for a fantastic family and great colleagues, and very grateful that we've all survived this last year and that most of us remember what really matters. Thanks for joining us, and join me for my radio show Monday morning on News Radio 620 WTMJ from 8:30 until noon. Have a great week.